What up? Welcome to another episode of the Dealer Talk Podcast. This is your host, Herb Anderson. Thank you so much for tuning in. In today's session, we're talking to none other than Mr. John Stubblefield, and we're going to have a conversation about finance. I'm very excited to have the opportunity to talk about this topic, and it's one of the reasons why I started the podcast is definitely to become more knowledgeable about the industry as a whole. Now, finance is the area that I've consulted in the least. It's probably the area that I know the least about, and so I really appreciated this conversation, and I'm very excited to be able to share it with all of you. Be ready to take some notes because John really brings a lot of not just knowledge as far as the finance side of things, but just some practical advice, right, that you can take back and implement in your day-to-day. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's check it out.
Today we have a really good guest on the show. We're going to be talking about finance. I've always really wanted to have that conversation here because it's probably the area in the dealership that I know the least on, having had a lot of exposure on there. And so I'm going to be making a lot of questions and trying to get as much value as possible out of this conversation. Hopefully there's some takeaways for you, the listener. And the person that we have on here is a rock star, man. He's been doing this thing for a while, putting up some really good numbers. And I'm just excited to get things rolling. So without further ado, let's introduce the guest for today. John, what's going on, sir? How are you?
I am excellent. How are you doing? Thanks for the intro.
Yeah, brother. I'm excited, man. I'm excited to have you on the show. I'm excited to have the conversation, and let's try to put as much value as we can down on this one.
For sure.
All right, man. So I always start out with a question about background, right? So if you can just give us a little bit of a recap for the listener, so that they can get just a gauge on your experience.
Okay. So been in the car business for about 9 years, been in finance for about 7, finance manager, finance director. My last place that I worked at was a Ford store in Collinsville, Illinois. I worked for big dealer groups, worked for the Van Tile Group, which is now Berkshire Hathaway, down to a single store group. So I've had quite a bit of experience from, what have I been involved in? So Lexus, BMW, Toyota, Audi, Chevrolet, what else have I done? Dodge, and Ford and Lincoln.
Right on, man. So you've been doing your thing for a minute. Since this is a numbers position, if you will, can we talk about your percentages and things like that? I just, I know them, but I just want to create some or establish some credibility here. And I mean, you got some impressive numbers, man. So I want to make sure we put that out there for you as well.
Yeah. So year to date for 2019, just a little bit over $2,100 a copy, 76% warranty, and about 2.5 products per. And I ran pretty similar numbers for 2018. 2018 was my first year at the dealership, at the Ford dealership, in about March of 18. Prior to that, I was at a Dodge store for 2 years and ran just a little bit under $2,000. So right on,
man. All right, so I'm going to kind of treat this thing, just forgive my ignorance, but like I said, it's probably my weakest area, and I just have a lot of questions about this, man. So let's start with 50,000 view, right? So let's talk about the challenges of being in the box, right? And in particular, what I'd like to get out is, I'm sure that there's some things that are universal, right? That people in that role kind of struggle with on a day-to-day basis. Can we talk about, obviously point those out and talk about some of the things that you did or you've done to kind of overcome those?
Yeah, for sure. So, I'd say probably the most important thing as a finance manager is making sure that you've got a process that you can stick to. Now, obviously, it's difficult now because everybody's going after, wanting you to speed up your process, go as fast as possible, have somebody in and out of the office in 15 minutes. And it's just, for me, I disagree with that pretty strongly. I kind of feel like, people don't know, what, if they're enjoying themselves, the time really doesn't matter. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I think that I kind of agree with the concept of moving things quicker, because I think that that's one of the areas that customers struggle with the most. Right, being buying a car, it takes a really long time. I know from my personal experience prior to being in the industry. I always felt like it was very lengthy process. Now, obviously, after having the experience, I understand a little bit more on the reasonings why. But for customers that are kind of ignorant to the process, it could seem like it's just it could be a little frustrating. But to that effect, like I think you said it perfectly, right? If you're having a good time and it's a good experience, then the time just flies by, right? Because you're enjoying you're enjoying that experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to say that somebody's going to love, it's not like they're going to, around here, I'm in Missouri, so around here we get Six Flags. I'm not saying that that they know that it's going to Six Flags, but there are certain things that management and sales and finance managers can do to make sure that they're keeping the people busy while you're waiting on finance. So for example, in my store, if they sold 6 cars and there's one finance guy there, well, you're not going to get to somebody really fast. But if the customer, if the dealership has a process for keeping that customer engaged, whether that be through making sure that you're showing all, do your delivery on the vehicle and making sure you're showing all the options. How many salespeople blow through a delivery on these cars that have all this technology on them, and the people don't know how to use half of what's on the car?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. So let's kind of develop that a little bit. So would you say that it's advantageous, right, for people in your role to kind of, I don't want to say drag it out, but really take their time to explain, the add-on purchases, right, to avoid, cancellations and chargebacks and things of that nature? Do you? I mean, are you an advocate for really explaining it and making sure that they know what they're getting and why it's important to get those things, or why do you recommend that they do it? Or is it better to just kind of, I hate to say it, but push the paper, move it along, and just try to get the customer on as many things and just get them out as quickly as possible?
Yeah, so when I work with groups of guys, you don't really know. So you have this thought in your head that you go, hey, I think this process is a good process, and here's the reason why I think it's a good process. But you don't truly know until you actually know what the numbers are. So, excuse me. I've always worked, and what I mean by that is when I worked for Van Tile, we had 6 finance guys, right? When I worked at one of my other stores, we had 5 finance guys, right? So everything's grouped together, and your cancellations come in as a group, right? So, your average store out there, you're probably running 10 to 15% in, cancellations. This is the first time I was at a store for about a year and a half that I was by myself pretty much. My cancellations were at like 6%. So I do believe that it takes time to explain what you're doing. So like one of the things that I do in the very beginning on a process is I let the customer know. So I've got 4 responsibilities, right? So one of my 4 is I go, all right, guys, one of my 4th responsibility is to try and get you guys out of here as quickly as possible. And then I smile and I say, but without making any mistakes, because I don't want it to drag you guys back in here a week from now, right? So if you guys have any questions for me. So, typically that's whenever I get a smile out of them, I get a little bit of laugh out of them. People always go, yep, I like number 4 the best. But what I'm trying to do there is to let them know that, man, I'm working as fast as I possibly can for you. But I also want to make sure that I don't make any mistakes, because this is, typically your second largest purchase, a super important purchase, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, for sure. Right on, man. That's yeah, I like that. Let's kind of switch gears here a little bit, right? So I want to talk about, just kind of get your take on how involved, or how important is to have a good relationship with the salesperson, right? And the reason I ask that is because I've had some consultative conversations and been at stores where there's there seems to be kind of an animosity between the sales team and the finance team. And I know that that's created some issues for some of those stores. What's your experience on that? And most importantly, what are your recommendations to kind of alleviate that and maybe create a strong collaboration between those two departments?
I think for sure that is definitely instrumental to have everybody in the boat, and not only in the boat, but rowing in the same direction. I mean, because if you got 2 or 3 people out of 6 in a boat, a couple of them are rowing a different direction, well, then who knows where the boat's going to go, right? So I think it's definitely you need to really, really, really make sure you're involving your salespeople. Now, with that being said, I'm not perfect, just like a lot of sales guys. Finance guys will tell you it gets aggravating asking them for the same stuff over and over. You get driver's license that are missing, the information on it, insurance is expired, names are spelled wrong, addresses aren't in there right. I mean, that's the whole thing that slows the process down. So usually what happens is, a guy drops the file off for you, he goes and gets a car cleaned, well, then you're missing something, well, then you're waiting for 5 or 10 minutes to get it from him, whether it's got miles on the trade or miles off the new car, or you're going out and getting it. So it definitely gets aggravating, for sure, but you gotta work with your sales guys, the finance department. I mean, the better everybody's getting along, the more profitable it usually is. Not that the sales guys will help you, but they can. But not that they will help you sell, products or warranties and stuff like that. But it does not hurt to have them on your side for sure. So definitely, I think one of the things we could probably all work on in the finance department, especially me, is getting better at making sure that you're working with and being a team leader and being more of a coach to these guys versus yelling at them. And I used to have a finance director. When you bring a file in, if it's missing something, he'd throw the file out the door. Papers go everywhere, and tell them pick it up and get back in line. So there's one extreme to the next. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, no, for sure. But did you, in your experience, I mean, did you try to create those bonds, that relationship? Did it make your job easier? What are some of the things that you might have done in your past? Maybe you came into a store and there was that vibe, right? And what would you recommend, or some ways to kind of bridge that gap?
Yeah, one of the easiest ways you can do it is help them sell car deals. I mean, get them involved. I mean, most guys in the finance office are typically the best closers in the building. And I mean, that's not because, obviously you're training, but I mean, we see 60, 70, 80, 100 deals in a month where, the average salesperson sees 10, 15, a good one sees 20 or 30. So, I mean, we've got the opportunity to learn a lot more about sales and close. So get out there, help them, talk to them, ask them questions, show them your process, what you go through. Don't be afraid to let them sit in on a deal. Now, some guys are funny about that. Some guys aren't. For me, when I started out in the Van Tile group, they audio and video record everything you do. So I don't mind if a salesperson wants to sit in and, watch the entire process for me, which I've done that a bunch. It just lets them know that, you're not back there playing around doing something that they think should take 5 minutes, and half hour, 45 minutes later, you come out of the office. I think it's good to get them all involved, but whatever you can do to help the salesperson, mostly help them sell cars.
Yeah, man, for sure. Definitely. I think that would, that would definitely create some bonding there for sure. Right. When you feel like you have an advocate helping you, sell a deal. Obviously the finance person, they benefit from that, right? Because they have an opportunity to get that person in the box and offer some extra, products, warranties, things of that nature that obviously help them with their paycheck as well. Man, I really wish that Eric was on this one, because I know that he had a situation, in his background where he was, he was selling and he wanted to go into finance, and, he kind of shadowed the finance director or finance manager at the store that he was working on. And he always tells a story on how, it was a struggle in the beginning, but eventually that person realized that he was serious about it and started to, kind of warm up and open up a little bit. So kind of putting it on twisting it around a little bit, but have you been in a situation, or do you recommend for people that are taking offs that are maybe looking at that position, right, and they're thinking about making that switch, making that move? Do you recommend that they be proactive about it and engage with either a finance manager or a really strong finance person within the dealership, let them know about their ambitions, and putting themselves out there and being like, hey, this is something that I'm interested in, I want to do. Is it okay if I, when I have some downtime, is it okay if maybe I shadow you? Is it okay if, maybe you can help me out here? I mean, what do you think about, what are some of the ways that they can do that, right? That they can leverage that relationship and try to get it, move forward up the chain as far as that position?
So I mean, it's kind of going to depend on your dealership and the finance guy that you got there. If he's willing to do that or work with you, that would be the easiest to be able to go, hey, dude. So as a salesperson, I'd be going to the finance guy and going, hey, what can I do to help you out? So what do we got to do on every single deal? After we get the deal done, we got to clean it up. It takes 10 or 15 minutes to clean it up. So maybe as a sales guy, you go in there and go, hey, can I help you start cleaning deals up? Will you show me? I want to learn about finance. Will you show me how to help start cleaning deals up? And then start cleaning deals up for the guy, right? So when you start doing work or putting in work like that, I'd imagine you're going to win anybody over. If I had a sales guy come in and want to take away 3, 4, or 5 deals a day from me and help clean them up and save me an hour and free me up for an hour, there's no way I'm going to turn him down whenever he wants to learn something from me, right?
Yeah, no, I think, like I said, that's the story that Eric always tells, but I personally think that would be the way to do it, right? Get that person on your side, obviously be willing to put in the work, and your reward for that is the knowledge, right? And learn. And that way, when that position becomes available, then you're the managers, the people in charge are going to know that you're ready, right? You've put in the time, you've taken that initiative, and you're already trained, right? I mean, there's always things to learn, but you're definitely ahead of the curve.
Well, I mean, so the other thing is that obviously you can, that finance manager should help you with that training portion as well. Now, I went to, a finance class, which, some people say is the best in the nation, through Van Til. It's a week-long finance class, right? The other thing that we had going on for us is since Van Til audio and video record all of the finance transactions, you've got a library of people that are running big numbers, right? Well, what's the easiest way to run big numbers if you want to run big numbers?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought.
No, you're fine. You just basically watch them, right, and learn from them. So it took me about 6 months. So I started out. I struggled. I like to think I was a pretty decent salesperson, and I struggled. Well, after about 6 months, I was running about $1,900 a copy. But that was all learning from guys that are already doing it, right? So I mean, that's the easiest way to learn is work with your guys. Then as a salesperson, I'd also let your sales manager, your general manager know, hey, I'm interested in doing finance. I don't want to take away from sales, because that would be the first thing that they'll be worried about is you're getting your mind worried about taking away, sales. But if you present it in the right light that, hey, I just want to learn about it. I think finance will help me get better at selling cars, help me be a better closer. And just in case something happens to where maybe you need somebody on a fill-in day or a day off or a day that we're getting, start out and ask them, say, hey, look, I'll do all your cash deals. Let me do all your cash deals. I mean, cash deals are typically ones that, your per copy number is going to be a little bit lower than, what it is as a finance deal, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, no, of course. A lot harder to roll things in, of course, doing it that way. But no, yeah, man, I totally agree. And I think that, one of the things that I like to promote, to our audience is the value of training, right? And I think that a lot of times we find ourselves waiting for the companies that we work for. And this applies to any industry, not just the automotive industry, but a lot of times I think that people find themselves waiting for the companies to do everything for us, right? And provide all the training and provide all these things for our professional development. But honestly, man, we have to be proactive too. And we have to understand that it's kind of our responsibility as well. We have to put in the time ourselves to, to get better at our craft, right? So,
yeah, for sure. I mean, I agree 110% for sure. Nothing will be given to you, and the stuff that is given to you is not worth, we're both old enough to know that most of the stuff that's for free is for free for a reason, right?
Yeah, exactly, for sure. So I think it's retained better when when you struggle a little bit and you find yourself in a position to actually push yourself to learn and to get better. With that kind of thought, and again, man, like I really have had very minimal exposure to this part of the dealership, but I'm curious about the training process, right? And what I mean by that, it's not so much like, hey, this is a new guy, let's train him and get him ready, but the progression of that. Let's say that you're 2 years into the role, you're maybe at $2,000 dollars a copy per copy average or whatever. Like, how do you close the gap between that and getting an extra, becoming a little bit better, kind of honing in on your craft? Like, what are some of the things that you recommend? What are some of the things that maybe some other organizations or dealerships, groups, whatever, that you've worked at have done for you that have really been impactful and have helped you past the point of when you first started out? Yeah,
that's a very difficult and I would say detailed question, and could lead on for hours and days, right? There are multiple things that you can do, and every step leads to it. But I mean, obviously, having good products to offer that you believe in, right? Making sure that those products are priced competitively, making sure that they, take care of the customer. So again, you've ever heard the word customer advocate. I'd like to think that I'm a customer advocate that likes to make money, right? So I don't give stuff away. There's no way you can and run decent numbers, because, just like anybody else that's coming into my finance office, they've got a job, they do it, and they get paid for it. So, I mean, I don't feel bad about making money, but I also want to make sure that I'm taking care of the customer as best that I can. And I believe, even though I ran $2,100 a copy and sold 76% warranty, I believe that I took care of the customer as best as I could, if that makes sense. So, I mean, you need to make sure that, one, you have a process, a solid process. It's got to be yours, right? And part of that process is, explaining to the customer what you're going to be doing, the steps that you're going to be doing, explaining the customer's full warranty that they currently have on their car right now, explaining their options to them, and giving them an opportunity to choose what they are. The finance guys that are out there that are, shoving people in and out of the office in 15 minutes and getting them to buy stuff that they don't know what it is that they're buying. And I mean, that's the ones that are creating the high cancellations, high chargebacks, putting the bad name on it. I mean, probably half of the people that are buying cars are going to be telling somebody about what they did. All right. So if you sell somebody $5,000 or $6,000 worth of stuff, you better make sure that they know exactly what they bought and the reason why they're buying it. And before they walk out of your office, they need to be comfortable that they made the correct decision. Because if they didn't, dude, I'm telling you, it goes away quick when the first person goes, "Oh, you didn't need to buy that warranty. Why'd you buy that warranty? Those things are terrible." They're always trying to, that's why cancellations get bad. So when somebody says that to my customer, they go, "Yeah, but I've got a $40,000 car, and for about $400-something a year, I've got it covered under bumper-to-bumper warranty for the next 10 years or 150,000 miles. So for me, it's worth, $400 a year, $30 a month, or whatever that number is, to keep this $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 vehicle under warranty." So I mean, to me, I want to make sure that my customer knows about the warranty as much as I do, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, for sure. So it kind of makes me think of a conversation that you and I were having earlier, and you mentioned something that kind of stuck with me, man. And it was this concept of, I'm paraphrasing, but you said something to the effect of, "Hey, everybody that's selling something, like, they should buy that for their car," right? Can you elaborate a little bit on that and the reasoning behind that thought?
Say that one more time. Answer that question again.
So you and I were talking recently and you said something that caught my attention, and it was something to the effects. Now I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like, you have to buy. You have to be either willing, or you should go ahead and buy all the things that you're offering.
For sure, yeah. And the finance guys. I mean, you should have every single product on your car, your wife's car, your mom and dad's car, your brother's car, your sister's. Every single product that you are offering. If you don't believe enough in it to make sure that your family members have it, you don't deserve to sell it and get paid on it. So, I mean, to me, I just feel like if you're not buying it or experiencing it yourself, how can you sit there and say that your customer needs to buy it? I mean, you just have to. You gotta. I mean, we're basically selling insurance products and getting paid for it. So it's we're selling the what ifs. So I just believe you got to participate.
Yeah, dude, that was really cool, man. When you said that, I was and obviously it was impactful enough where I remembered it, and I wanted to bring it up here. But I thought that was really interesting that you had that perspective. Do you think that a lot of finance personnel or managers even are doing that or willing to do that? I mean, is that like a common practice? And kind of a two-part question. How mindset wise, right? If you do that and you do have it and you get to experience it, do you think that gives you an advantage or an edge versus somebody that's just kind of selling it because they're supposed to, quote unquote?
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, so back to your original question, yes, I think anybody that's running close to $2,000 a copy, and if they're doing it right, I think that they'll have all the products on their vehicle. There's no way. So they will have it on there 100% all the time. Their family members have it on there. Everybody they know will have warranty on it. I don't have any friends of mine that are not driving here. My neighbor just bought a car across the street. Didn't buy it for me. Bought a used Honda Odyssey van, right? Well, what do you think he's got on his car because of me? Warranty. So I truly believe the products, if you sell them correctly and they are good products, there's no reason why you should not risk $300 or $400 or $500 a year on a warranty on a vehicle that has 20 or 30,000 parts. That half of them now are made out of plastic parts and electronics, right? So I mean, think about that. My wife probably spends more than that on coffee every month.
True, man. That's so true. It makes perfect sense, dude. It just puts you in a different mindset, right? Like, and if you're willing to pay for it yourself, I just think that delivery is going to be just better, man.
Sure, 100%.
Yeah. Okay, so I kind of want to switch gears a little bit, and we'll talk about it a little bit towards the end. I know you're making some career changes, and I want to give you an opportunity to kind of develop on that. But before we kind of get into that subject, I wanted to talk about, kind of put your expertise on blast if we can for a second. So let's imagine that you are, you're hired by somebody to go into a dealership and kind of evaluate that part of the business, right? And let's suppose that this person is that there's a lot of opportunity for growth, right? Again, I'm kind of ignorant in this part, so forgive me for that. But let's say that they're running $1,000 a copy, and your task is to get them, I don't know, 1,600 or get them to $1,700. What are some of the things that you would look at, right? For those decision makers that are listening to this that are maybe struggling or going through that sort of a situation, especially, man, right now with the contraction in new cars and kind of where things are at. What are some of the things that are maybe universal, if that's the right way of saying it, that you can do to kind of move the needle?
Right. So, I mean, it really depends on the type of store, right? So it depends on if they've got high finance, high lease, high cash. The last store I came from was mostly finance, almost no leases, and about 33% cash when I started there, right? So like 60-something% finance, right? So the first thing that I'm doing is trying to figure out how do I get them financed, how do I get the finance penetration up more, right? So there's certain things that a dealership can do to ensure that the people that are coming in are, that know that it's important to finance with you, or even offer concessions to finance with you to get you in the finance office, right? So if 20 or 30% of people are going down to the local credit union, because most of them aren't real cash, depending on your dealership, maybe some of them are real cash, but I'd say, most of them, if they run 30 or 40% cash, maybe 30% is, getting financed somewhere else, and 10% is real cash. And the other thing is, a lot of guys that are paying real cash right now, the market's paying them so much money right now. If you can get a car loan at 3 or 4%, and you're taking money out of the market that's earning you 10 or 12 or 15%, it's just silly right now. So there's no reason why people shouldn't be, financing. But one, the dealership needs to offer something to get that customer to do that. Two, the first thing that I'm looking at is the products. What products are available? How are they priced? What are they trying to do? Are they trying to sell the customer a 6 or 7 year warranty for $3,500 that the customer can walk right next door into the local credit union and pick up for $1,600? So again, are your products right? Deductibles on the products. Are you having a customer do a $100 deductible or a $200 deductible or $50? Where are you driving that customer to? Are you trying to drive the customer back to your service department? And if you're not, it's crazy, dude. Who else better controls claims than your own service department? So, and what I mean by that is, you give somebody a $100 deductible, they can go to any dealership they want and get service work done, right? Well, then when they go to that other dealership and they've got a mechanic that wants to squeeze the juice out of the system and replace an air conditioning that doesn't really need to be replaced. Well, most of these dealers have their warranties set up to where, they're getting paid on whether or not that warranty, how the claims handle on it, right? So if they have a ton of high claims, it costs them more money. If they do, so you can control that depending on what products you're putting in there, and depending on if you're bringing the customer back into your own service department. Plus, service departments typically are a good profit center, so why would you not, want to do that? Two, or three, I would say probably what you're marking the products up for. I've never been a fan of letting a finance guy go all wild cowboy and charge whatever he wants. Now, part of that was my training that I got through Van Tile. They required you to you were only allowed to mark a product up X amount of dollars. It didn't matter if you had a customer that you had all kinds of room, and they the perfect customer comes in and they buy a car that's $300 a month and tells you, as long as you can keep me under 400, we got a deal, right? You can't do that. Like, you have to have morals that keep you selling stuff. No matter if I can, take super advantage of you and add $3,000 to the warranty, I'm not going to do it. So you need to make sure that you are have a consistent markup process. And sometimes your markup process may be too high, it may be too low. What else? Let's see. What else did I say? What else do you think I'm missing?
Man, I don't know. That's a tough one for me because probably training the people, right? Training the staff and making sure that they have the tools.
Right. So training them. Oh, yeah, right. So menus, for example. So, it's funny. There's stores that I've been into that the owners or managers don't talk to the finance guys, and they'll put a menu in place just because somebody told them something about it, and they don't even know how it works. So, and what I mean by that is, so when I offer you a warranty, right, I always start with the highest price warranty, the longest term, longest miles, okay? So some of the people out there tell you, go out and do an interview with the customer, which you can. But I'm saying I don't like doing a specific interview. I will go out and talk to the customer, but not about specifics, right? So I want to make sure that I'm starting with the highest price warranty available, right? So I can figure out whether they will or they won't. Because then after that, I can adjust it down. But if I start with a warranty that is customized towards you and exactly the miles that you drive and exactly how long you're going to do it, well, what happens when you tell me no? Where can I go at that point?
Yeah, nowhere. You're stuck, right?
Yeah, because I've already customized it for you. But when I tell you that I'm gonna offer you the longest term, then I go like, oh man, yeah, that's right. That your sales guy said you only drive this miles. Okay, perfect. I got another idea for you. So when they tell me no, I've got 2 or 3 other ideas to try and entice them to buy a warranty from me, right? And part of that is I don't use the, let me call my manager and see if he's got some coupons, or let me see what kind of, we're running a special when I'm down to 5 coupons left and I can discount. I don't do that crap. So what I like to do is, adjust it by mileage or term or deductible. Okay, what I mean by that is if I'm starting out at a 10-year, 150,000 mile with a $0 deductible or a $200 disappearing deductible, so I drive my customer back to my dealership, right? I can go all the way down to a 5-year, $75,000 and $200 deductible. It changes the price of my warranty by about $1,500. So depending on my customer, you can do those types of adjustments if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, right on, man, for sure. Okay, let me ask you, and I think that was good. I mean, again, I hate having to repeat it, but I think that all those things are definitely ways for improvement. And I think that right now,
the process, like you said earlier, training or process. Yes, I agree 100%. I mean, we didn't touch on that, but you've got to have a set process. You've got to have a process to help keep you sane, because you may get in front of 5 customers who buy nothing, and then you get depressed, and then you start trying to change stuff, and you can't do that. You got to have a process that knows. So I don't care if I had 5 customers in a row that bought nothing from me, which doesn't happen to me very often, but when it does, I know what my numbers are. I know I run $2,100 a copy. I know I run 76% warranty penetration. I know I have two and a half products per. So I just know it's just a matter of time that I'm going to go through this. I need to keep a positive attitude. I need to make sure that I'm presenting all the products all the time, spending time with every single customer, regardless of what the regardless of what the salesperson tells me or the manager tells me, or even if I know that this guy, you got a $21,332 car and he wants to put down $1,332.36 to make sure he financed exactly $20,000. I don't care, dude. You've got to trick your mind into knowing that your processes produce results. And when you know that, you will continue the same process every time, regardless of, when they go, oh, my brother's a mechanic. Well, great. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'll bet your brother will tell you the same thing. The labor isn't what's expensive anymore. It's the parts. So when I go and I show them a warranty on it, I don't care if their brother's a mechanic. In fact, I've sold warranties to people who are mechanics. Because I'm like, look, first off, you already know that most of the cars with this new technology, most people don't get that passed along for 3 or 4 years, right? And on top of it, with the cost of the parts, and on top of that, you may not want to crawl underneath the car and work on it whenever you do it for a living every single day from work, correct? So, again, there are ways, if you don't know the ways to, for the 10 reasons why people say no, you're in trouble.
Yeah, and that's why I was going back to that, like I was saying, process, man, because here's what happens. If it's proven and it's working, then you can replicate that, right? But when you try to think that you can skip a step here, and I don't need to do this, or this isn't important, or it doesn't jive with my style or whatever, that's when you start to get into trouble, man. I mean, follow the blueprint. It's there. It's proven to work. It's implemented for a reason. So
it keeps you sane as a finance guy. It is. I mean, you're trying your hardest and your best to, you're acting, you're selling stuff, you're trying to be in a good mood, regardless of if you're not. Nobody's a robot, so it's very difficult to maintain that. But customers don't really care, man. You got to give 110% for every single customer, regardless of if you don't feel good, regardless of if your throat hurts, regardless of if you got a headache, regardless of if you got the cold, or you've got to give your best every single time. If not, you're not selling anything. I mean, you're not. If you give up the first time that somebody tells you, "Oh no, I'm not really interested in this. Can you speed this process up for me?" You're not getting it. So anyway, knowing your processes, the more you know them, the further it's cemented, the better you are. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally, man, totally. And I'm glad that we kind of circled back on that, because I think that's a big one, and I'm glad that we were able to touch on that a little bit more. So we're getting close to the end here, man. I wanted to obviously give you some time to talk a little bit about your transition and give you, kind of put a spotlight on that. But one last question I kind of have that hopefully there can be some takeaways here for the listeners is I want to talk about the products, and in particular, based on your numbers and your experience, what are some of the products or a product that is kind of maybe underrated in the industry, or something that you've had a lot of success with that you feel that could definitely be an add-on, or something that can help dealers just increase their per copy, man, even if it's a couple $100, something that might be a little bit different or out there that you've used successfully?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it really depends on the dealer, and it depends on what their taste or appetite is. Because, for example, I've always had good luck with a theft product, right? Well, some dealers don't like the idea of a theft product, so you just don't. It just depends. But I took a product that you're able to add to, and basically add a couple $100 a copy with one product that you can almost sell, depending on how you set it up. You can almost have it on the car 100% of the time. But you just need to make sure that you are that you have good products set up, right? So I mean, some people like doing paint, some people don't. Some people like maintenance, some people don't. So I mean, again, it just depends on the particular product and the dealer's appetite, and whether or not he's willing to try something, or, for example, trust somebody like me that has done at 3 different dealerships, can tell you, yes, I've done this, put this in place, and I promise you that the salespeople may complain about it a little bit, but I promise you it works and it brings in blank amount. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, for sure. When you say theft, you're talking about etch or low jack, or?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Theft, etch, whatever you want to call it.
Okay, right on. All right, cool, man. So, so let's kind of switch gears here. Like I said, I wanted to give you some time to talk about your transition, and let us know a little bit about your venture, and kind of what that looks like.
Yeah. What I'm doing right now, right? So I was in a finance position, and basically got to a point to where I was making a little bit too much money, a little bit more than the GM makes. Did that for almost 2 years, and
that's not good, man.
This year got a little bit crazy. Now again, I got paid a percentage, so it was only based off of what
performance.
I produced.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but when I'm putting up, the department's putting up $250,000. Whenever I started there and put up $80,000, the paycheck's a little bit different. So anyway, with the dealer, decided to cut my pay, and I felt it was a good time to get out and try something new. Now, I've always wanted to get into the realm of training other finance guys, right? So I reached out to our friend Sean Kelly, which I know you've had him on your show I think several times, right?
Yeah, a couple of times. He's going to be back on for this season, so he's going to be a repeat guest, man, because that guy is just all about value, and I'm all for that.
Awesome. So reached out to him.
Shout out to Sean Kelly, by the way, buddy, if you're listening to this, man. I said shout out to Sean Kelly if he's listening to this.
Yeah. You know what? I forgot to tell. We should have made sure he was.
Yeah.
Okay. So first time he ignored me, dude. I reached out to him, and he completely ignored me. Didn't answer it. So I kind of forgot about it. I had a good buddy of mine that's a bank rep for Capital One, and he said, "Hey man, you need to check with this guy Sean Kelly." I'm like, "Dude, you're the second person now that's told me about it, right?" So Sean has car motivators. He's on a mission to bring coaching to the car business, right? So my original philosophy was, hey, I make $2,000 a copy. A lot of the dealers out there run 1,000, 1,200, 1,300, 1,500. I've got plenty of knowledge I can share, and get them an extra $200-300 a copy with some quick changes, and then after that we work on improving, and that'll jump up another $200, $300, $400, $500 over time, right? So it's definitely not going to happen overnight, but there are some quick changes that we can make that might get you $100, $200, $300 a car. I mean, damn near overnight, right? So after talking to him and learning kind of the differences between training and coaching, which I guess I can explain that real quick. So training is more like, here's my agenda. I'm the best. You're going to do what I say, right? Coaching is more like, it's your agenda. How can I help you? How can I get you to where you want to go? Not everybody wants, has the same agenda. But lucky for me, most people that have gotten in the finance office have gotten in there because they like to make money, and typically they, are always interested in making more. So I kind of switched my goal from just doing finance training to doing finance coaching, which is what we're offering through Car Motivators as part of Sean Kelly's coaching business.
Right on, man. So we're going to put some information in the notes. If anybody listening to this can, benefit from a couple $100, increase per copy, make sure to check it out. We don't do a lot of promoting on the show, man, but when it comes to certain folks like Sean Kelly, it's just, I just know the value that they're going to bring. And so I want to make sure that we expose that as much as possible. So, and not just for finance, man, if you're looking just for coaching for your staff, if you're looking to improve overall, then I highly, highly suggest that you connect with these folks. Check them out on LinkedIn. They put in a lot of value, a lot of content out there for free. So if you're just looking for, something free, look for them on the social media platforms. And if you're looking for the real deal, then definitely reach out. So in the notes, we're going to put some information in there to how to get in touch with John, how to get in touch with Sean Kelly. We're going to put the website, all that stuff in there, put as much information on you guys as we possibly can. Dude,
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I was going to tell you too, Herb, is one of the big differences between coaching and training that I kind of learned just hanging out with Sean, because I just started with him a month ago, right? When we go into these dealerships, you would not believe the relationship where sales is like, Sean, what's up, buddy? Come up and hug you. Versus most of the time, most vendors, when they go into, I was always hiding from my vendors, right? Like I don't have time for you, dude. Like I'm busy, and it's just a different mindset. So I'm switching over to that whole mindset, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. Listen, dude, thank you so much. I know today was crazy. I had I totally messed the schedule up and caused Eric not to be in the show, and then you accommodated, and we're super flexible. And even though we're doing it over the phone, I was just, super thankful to have this opportunity. I think this is a good episode. There's a lot of nuggets in here, a lot of takeaways. So thank you so much, dude, for accommodating and making this happen today. Before we,
I really appreciate it.
Right on, brother. Before we leave, there's always one question that I ask everybody, but we got maybe like 3 minutes, so as much condensed version as you possibly can. Where do you see the automotive industry going in the next 5 years, and why?
That is probably a pretty tough one, right?
Or maybe in your realm, it would be, where do you see the finance portion of the automotive industry going, and why?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people are trying to do these one-off, finance things where you've got a salesperson doing the finance, doing the whole delivery and all that. I think that they're trying that, and I think for guys that are okay running $1,000, $1,100, $1,200, $1,300 a copy, I think you can probably get away with that. But it's kind of my thought process on that is, to me, it's like I think there's a difference between a guy that does brain surgery all the time and a guy that is a general practitioner. So I think if a guy just kind of does brain surgery once a year and then does this once, to me, I would rather have somebody working on me that is if I need brain surgery, dude, I'm going to try and find the best brain surgeon in the world. Well,
you want a specialist?
Say that again.
You want a specialist?
Well, yeah, you want a specialist. So for our businesses, finance is one of the last realms that the customer hasn't figured out how to make sure that we make nothing and or lose money on, right? So to me, I just feel like you need to specialize that. So with that being said, I would say that it's going to be pretty crazy to watch. Everything's turning into done for you type of videos, and they're trying to get it to where the whole thing is put on a video, and everybody can just buy the stuff. I still think you need a specialist there explaining the benefits and what it is and what you need, and I think that's not going to go away. But I'm excited about the future, dude. There's a lot of good stuff that happened. There's a lot of cool stuff that's coming out. So I don't know. Hopefully I answered your question for you.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. Thank you so much again, dude. This was awesome, man. I really enjoyed it. I learned a ton myself, so it was educational for me. So I really appreciate you taking the time. And that is all we have for this session. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And as usual, we'll talk later.
You made it all the way to the end. Congratulations. Thank you so much for tuning in. We truly, truly appreciate it. If you like this episode and you think of somebody that can benefit from this information, please make sure to share it. Share this podcast so that they can take these insights back to the dealership and implement on their day-to-day. Thank you so much. And as usual, we'll talk later.